And one day she discovered that she was fierce and strong and full of fire, and that not even she could hold herself back because her passion burned brighter than her fears. A very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I feel so overwhelmed by your amazing love and support towards our Inspiring Ideas, Inspiring Women series that commenced last month. Inspired by the work and empowering stories of passionate and successful women, we at Inspiring Ideas envision to create a world of new possibilities, innovation, and growth. And I'm absolutely elated to bring to you episode 2 of this series. Joined by my co host Abhinav Raje, it is a great honor and privilege for me to introduce our speaker today, Rita Arrigo, Chief Digital Officer at Microsoft Australia. With over 25 years of experience in delivering and developing digital solutions, Rita has a passion for emerging technology to reimagine the possible with AI, mixed reality, IoT, and blockchain. Her deep rooted belief that adoption of new technology is the key enabler to digital transformation and growth beckons her to design programs of change that transform and create sustainable futures for the way we live, work, and play. A believer in business outcomes, a trusted advisor, a truly inspiring leader, digital diva Rita, I am so excited to have you on our show today. A very warm welcome.
Thank you, and thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. And it's such an honor to be part of what you're putting together. And I think it's wonderful to be able to open up this forum and have a bit of a discussion around the kind of things that we're doing to make it more powerful for women to be in business.
Great. Thank you, Rita. Let's get right into the show and stay tuned, all you listeners, because today's conversation is about leading the path in tech innovation, what it takes to feed your passion through towards evolution of what you believe in, some diversity and inclusion hacks, and also the unique recipe to help customers achieve their desired goals and define success. Let's get started, Abhi.
All right, sure. Thanks, Yogita. Thanks for the introduction. Welcome, Rita. Rita, my first question is that you've played so many roles in your career. I'm more keen to know what you're currently doing at Microsoft because I'm aware that you're very passionate about it. Would you like to share with our audience?
Sure. I've had a lot of diverse roles in my career, and some of the highlights of my current role at the moment are that when I first started working 25 years ago, there wasn't really a lot of role models around, and role models have had a huge impact on me. So when I started working at Telstra, for example, who were the largest employer in Australia 25 years ago, I knew a lot about the internet, VPNs, IP addresses, CGI code, HTML, but all the Telstra people, they knew about telephony and PSDN and ISDN, they hadn't really heard about the internet. But back then I had a colleague, a lady called Chris Munro, who was confident, and she could take on conversations with executives with gusto and really be compelling. And she really quickly became my manager and transformed my role into this ability to now have 49 people, managing $1 billion business. And this really changed my trajectory, and it's really changed, what I've been doing at Microsoft as well. And I appreciate greatly the female role models that I've had. But what's changed in my role at Microsoft is that now I even have men that are part of that change, and men that are coaching me, and that men that I look up as role models as well. And that's been a major change in what I'm doing. So my role at Microsoft has allowed me to now not just look up to women and learn more about what they do, but also be able to take on the kind of mentorship that men give me to that, and it's really starting to rebalance the way I do things. So, for example, some of the work I do is around AI and implementing ML ops, or like looking at the kind of challenges that businesses might have in the way that they kind of want to change what they're doing, and then trying to bring that cultural change to life in their organization as well. And it's a very soft skill, Abby, that I have, but it also involves some technical skills where it allows you to, open up the kimono and, explore what are some of the challenges and what are the deep-rooted opportunities. And it often takes a bit more of a empathetic, consultative approach to get that
Right.
information out of your customers. And so I'm finding that being able to do that in the Microsoft context is really quite an exciting, different way of being able to do that.
That's fantastic. I think that sounds so exciting in terms of your role.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Rita, let me take you back in time. So, back in 1985, when you opted for industrial engineering and computing, what made you decide to go for a double degree? I mean, given there is an evident gender disparity in technical fields, how would you guide our young, aspiring women with similar interests in terms of what degrees or diplomas they must choose, to excel in a technology domain?
Yeah, and I think it was really interesting back then. I think it was already emerging that the single domain is probably not the future, and the world is about this multidisciplinary thinking of being able
Right.
to bring together the technical and the non-technical. I'll give you an example. My youngest daughter, who's just turned 20, she's studying a degree that's multidisciplinary. It's design and technology mashed together. And I find that these multidisciplinary degrees really help you to kind of bring that new purpose-driven careers, really create that purpose-driven. So think business and technology, think engineering and sustainability, where women can actually start to get out of that traditional backroom technologist, which I think is traditionally where you have that single kind of capability in that single domain, and be able to enter these different conversations. And I'll give you an example of that. At Microsoft, we have a very male-dominated area, which is really difficult to disrupt, and it's like called the cloud solution architect, and it's traditionally a male role, and it's often comes from infrastructure, and it's one of those things that if you did bring multidisciplinary to that, you'd get so much more innovation, and
Right.
so I would suggest to women that and young ladies that, or people, any aspiring young woman, to kind of look at these multidisciplinary approaches that can allow you to have much more of an impact in these more mono domains that currently exist that are quite male dominated.
Right. I think you're very right because career choice and progression doesn't necessarily have to fit into, any standard societal mold. And your journey, Rita, proves that you should set your own limits and clearly be able to articulate them. This does take courage, but it also is liberating and empowering.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think it is interesting to kind of think about your journey in a lot of ways. And I'm not a traditional career planner. I just kind of find things that appeal to me, and
Mhm.
and that kind of gives me the energy to keep going. So it's that whole, and I think a lot of women are like that. Like you were telling me that you were working in procurement, for example, and I think it's an area of
Right.
real innovation. And I think it's that innovation that drives you and makes you more excited, because it means you're actually transforming your work rather than doing the same thing you've done every year. And I think traditionally male-dominated industries like engineering and these infrastructure areas, they don't like a lot of change,
Mm.
and I think that's it does stifle the innovation that we really do need as we enter these new challenging eras.
Right. In fact, Rita, I was reading a research and it applies more to the Indian workplace, where I found that 82% of women, especially in the India tech workplace, feel unheard, you know, totally unheard at their jobs, which to me signifies a problem with workplace culture. As you mentioned, technology is a male dominated field and there is an inherent gender bias. So, what are
Mm.
your thoughts around this so called unconscious bias and what must really be done to break this with a view to promote equal opportunity as well as career growth?
You know what? It's really very real, and it's really super difficult to recognize and change. And I've had to find new ways to have my voice heard, because often it's a different voice than everybody else in the room. I can imagine
Right.
it would be the same in the research that you found, and I have to do kind of weird things like join hackathons or attend company hackathons, or do external hackathons where it's a more of an informal approach. I
Mhm.
actually, as I was explaining earlier, I actually now have a lot of male allies, and so I find that going to a meeting and doing mansplaining actually works. And I know it's really sad, right? But it's something really wonderful that men will do for you when they respect your voice, and they will reiterate what you're saying so that the rest of the room can eliminate some of their subconscious bias, and you can begin to be heard even though it's not your voice. And I think it's these kind of challenges where you have to find techniques to kind of crack it, because there is that. It's a really strong, it's quite strong. And then there's these stereotypes that people have. And it was really interesting this in 2 years ago at Microsoft, I became an AI ambassador. I didn't even know
Mm.
what it was, but I was the only woman in Australia that got appointed as an AI ambassador, and just meant that I got invited to do more tech talks and engaged in projects, and I could be on panels, and it really
Wow.
increased the ability of women who could talk about that, and it made it easier for other women. So not things that aren't necessarily ideal like the mansplaining, but things that can actually help you to get to that level of being able to break those stereotypes, and change that whole bro thing. I don't know if in India, if you have that bro grammar like they do in the US. We have more of mates in Australia. That all the guys get together and they're mates, right?
I might. Yeah.
So I think that having these little things that can have your voice heard every now and then is really, it's very satisfying, and it can really bring you out of a dark place. Because I was actually listening to the Microsoft Include conference, and
Mhm.
there's some research around the fact that not being included is the same as physical pain. Like, it
Mm.
actually hurts. And
Mm.
and I think finding little ways to kind of let that, alleviate that pain can help you to go to the next phase. And I think male allies are really great, kind of, what would you call it? Like bridge to be able to get
Yes.
there, to be able to like get to that, breaking down those subconscious thinking of, what does a cloud technologist look like? It doesn't have to be a
Right.
guy. Like, or, what does a
Amazing.
technical, what does someone who's respected look like? Does it have to be a guy? And I think it's so that's been really interesting. The other thing that I did want to mention is that at Microsoft, they've really taken it very seriously, because they know that
Right.
um, it really affects productivity, and it affects our feelings, and it
Mm.
affects innovation. So they've actually put a KPI around diversity with managers. And so where they see subconscious bias, or where they see these kind of challenges and how they address them, has become a
Mm.
KPI in their diversity action, because
Wow.
I think it is going to take a lot of work to solve those kind of things.
I think that's
Right.
great. About two takeaways for me is that one is that we need to talk more about it, okay, through different forums. And the other is what you said is like, which is great that it's going to be part of the KPI, and I've seen that, especially the corporate culture, if you add something to your KPIs, then people pay more conscious attention towards it.
Yeah, because it's the bottom line, right? And
Yes.
so it can affect your bonus, or can affect all kinds of things. And I think traditionally we would wear our heart on our sleeves, and we would try and change corporate culture, but it's a really big thing to try and take
Yeah.
on. And I think
Right.
it's wonderful to have that support from the business, to be able to say, this is a really important initiative.
All right. Let's move on to our connected section, which talks about women empowerment. Now, apart from being deeply passionate, Rita, about pragmatic tech solutions to solve those business problems, you've also led the way towards women empowerment. And I personally believe empowerment of women is not just about, a set of policies or measures designed to increase the degree of autonomy. It is actually a multidimensional, continuous process, a
Mm,
process of self-determination, professional support from people, greater access to resources, knowledge, self reliance, of course, self confidence in decision making to enable women to fully harness their ability to plan their lives, to have the right to determine their own choices, and to have control over the circumstances that may have influenced their lives. So, to feel free of any shackles imposed on them by their custom or belief or any practice. So I think it'll be extremely valuable for me and our audience here to know about your definition of empowerment and how you have stepped up to make it a reality, both in your professional life and society.
sure. So I think in a very, very early part of my career, I believe that empowerment is about going, beyond women and men having the same opportunities. I think that that's just normal, right? But showing the benefits of what a more inclusive workplace should be. So I sincerely, and I know this is really hard for a lot of men to go with, and the existing business. I really do believe that male-dominated industries are dangerous. They're not natural, and they don't represent humanity. And so it's that kind of approach that often gets me into a bit of trouble because I'll like walk around and go 95% men. Oh my God, look at that room. It's like 19 guys and one girl. What is going on there, right? Like
Right.
and why is that occurring? And it's and but I think insisting that we reflect humanity is really important. And like you said, Yogita, they've done studies that diversity does produce more innovation. For example, BCG did a study that 19% more innovation comes from more diverse organisations. So if we
Right.
know that, and we know that male dominated and uninclusive businesses don't actually deliver great results, why do they still exist? And at the moment, I don't really know the answer, but I know that when I see that situation, I think it does, to me, it kind of says, this is not a good place to be. And we need to fight to make that much more inclusive. Another crazy example, a friend of mine who's a judge, and this is a totally different industry, and she was saying that in Australia, it was not until 1970 that women were allowed to be on a jury because the
Mm.
legal system believed that women, they get a bit upset and they can't make good decisions. And it was just like, it was quite amazing that, there had to be an Equal Opportunity Act passed and a whole lot of different stuff to kind of say, women should be on the jury. Women can experience rape, but they can't be on a jury. And I think that it's this kind of thinking that sometimes we need to bring to work, and I think we're already seeing it in some of the management arenas, that it's become so much clearer the actual danger of having male dominated businesses.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because also from a pure business perspective, I would say that if diversity and inclusion is not part of your organization, then how are you building solution for everyone? Because the market is diverse, whether you like it or not, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it is interesting. It's interesting that 95% male populations in
yeah,
technology still exist, but I think that is changing, and I think as well, as we find ways of breaking down subconscious bias and breaking down some of the ways that women can find different role models, that will change, and it is going to be a bit of a journey.
So I believe one of the big challenges, and this is more relevant to our young aspiring women tuned in, is cultivating beginner's mind. To making sure that we're still open to receiving new ideas and just with that go-getter spirit. I mean, it's easy, to get jaded, to stop seeing things that are new or to fear failure. But with an open mind, you harness that ability to see the world with new eyes. That's what I always believed in. Moving on, Rita, back in 1995, you witnessed the dawn of internet, and with like-minded friends, you launched Australia's first internet cafe in St. Kilda. During this time, you also presented and produced Bite Into It, which is a 3 radio show focused on embracing technology. So, very early in your career, you exhibited strong leadership skills, even if it meant breaking stereotypes, but you were unstoppable. So, what is your advice to the young girls out there who are waiting to uncover their true potential into becoming new age leaders?
I love this question. Thank you. And it's for me, it's always been to look beyond where you work and get involved outside and to get involved in meetups, hackathons, user groups, the radio show, like this podcast. This is just, it's a passion that Abby and you have that allows you to kind of really open your world and create communities and, really exciting and enriching career activities for you. But it really means that you can form these professional networks. And I think for women, that's so exciting to be able to go out of your work zone where people see you in a certain way and be involved in external activities or conferences or, these kind of things. Like I go to Pause Fest or different events where you can start to really build your skills where you're not constrained by where you work.
Right.
And I think it's kind of investing in yourself, and I think it takes a bit of time to be able to go, okay, yeah, so I've got a job where I get paid, right? But but I also have these other things that I need to do because that's really going to help me, have these exciting career enriching capabilities that allow me to, be able to look beyond my current role. So they're the kind of things I would recommend. And I'm seeing it in young students, in the way they seek out volunteer activities or they seek out graduate capabilities or, they're involved in their own little social kind of campaigns that they're really embracing this idea of going beyond where you get paid to kind of create these enriching activities.
That's fantastic. Rita, our next question is from our audience, and we got a lot of business leaders who are listening to our podcast. And one of the business leaders wanted to ask you is that post-COVID, so many things have changed, right? One good thing is that we are embracing technology more in all type of organizations. At the same time, sometimes we're not able to understand what technology can do for us, especially for business leaders. Either they get overboard or they feel that it may not deliver the value that they want. So, what are the 3 key skills that you believe are important for our business leaders who are in the path of creating digital transformation for their organizations?
Yeah, so to me, and I see it with the business leaders that I respect and admire, the first one is empathy, like to be able to open your mind to exactly the way people feel, and rather than imposing your ideas on people, like having
Mhm.
that empathy to be able to walk in their shoes. And so I think that is a really important skill, and you'll find it. It takes a bit of time to establish with your maturity, etc. But I find that when you have empathy as a leader, you can really stand out. The other one is, not to expect too much perfection. And I think that is something that, we've always been like, everything's got to be perfect. Your spelling's got to be perfect. Your grammar's got to be perfect. The way you dress is got to be perfect. And like being able to, really embrace imperfections, I think is really exciting. And some of the work I've been doing in inclusion around accessibility and it just shows that if you're able to appreciate the way people actually are, then you can embrace all the special parts of them rather than having this kind of stereotypical approach. And probably the third one is to always be learning. So, don't rely on that skill that you had 15 years ago. Keep learning new ones, and keep kind of always building on your knowledge, because I think that's what keeps you fresh and kind of creates that ability to be able to engage with all kinds of different people, because you're always learning different things.
I have to say this, Rita, that I've also been following your work, and it's really inspiring for me personally how it's so effortless that you've drawn out real world problems and big problems, and then you've connected them back to your customer priorities and outcomes. It's really commendable.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And there's gonna it's and you don't do it on your own. And I think I really value the people around me, the amazing work that you guys do. And I think that I love being part of this community. And I think that feeds off all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate that.
All right, Rita, the
Thank
last
you.
question. So we put a post out saying that you're coming to our show, so there's a lot of excitement, and we gave more opportunity to the audience that they can ask a question, and we select the best one. This question is coming from Pooja Malhotra. Okay, and it's a very nice question here. How do you constantly stay motivated and focused to not feel dissuaded, but remain purposeful and inspired to continue to challenge yourself to the next level?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I recently was lucky enough to work with a life coach that was really focusing on values and like what are the values that you have. And for me, my values are around, having financial stability, and being able to like have a purposeful kind of career that is allowing me to not only have my own financial security, but also be able to like live the kind of goals and missions that I have. And so I think it's being able to tap into my own personal values, and maintain that and continue to challenge myself. And I think often when you try and conform to other people's KPIs, it becomes quite hard. But if your KPIs are kind of matched to your own personal values, it can make a really big difference. Like recently, I had a career coach also say to me, there's all the skills you have, like all the amazing skills you have. Like, you might be able to do design thinking, or, you might be able to be the fastest person at responding to an email, or you might be like really good at, picking up new technology. And then you have like the things that you love. And it's kind of about bringing the things that you love and your skills kind of together. And as you do that, then you can kind of, maintain that motivation and continue to challenge yourself, because you're getting closer and closer to the things that you love. And it's having that definition that can sometimes make that a lot easier.
That's a great
Right.
answer.
Thank you, Rita.
I hope you find that useful, because I know when I was told that story, it just made so much sense to me, because, there's so many things we can do, but it's about finding the ones that are more aligned to the things that you love.
Right. Yes, I mean, it's about looking at the opportunities that come your way. Sometimes, the opportunities come when we least expect them, isn't it? When we're not even ready for them.
Absolutely.
So
True.
it is very rare that an opportunity will come to us like in a gift box with a bow on top. In fact, I've seen that the good ones, the good opportunities can be really confusing at times, right? It can be sort of hard to recognize whether it's a risk or is it a challenge or the best decision of my life.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes that's that whole, mind, body, gut thing that you have to kind of make a decision around. But yeah, I think those kind of well-planned, executed things are really hard to there is often a serendipity to the way opportunities do emerge.
Right. Rita, you've been a dreamer. You've never been afraid to share your dreams, to talk about what you wished to create, and to see that in the world. One of the aspects I learned today is that you must ignore the naysayers. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, your ideas, and most importantly, your ability to execute. What is also crucial is to find mentors and champions to not only solicit advice but also seek tangible support. Thank you, Rita, for sharing these useful insights about your journey. I'm sure your inspiring story will purposefully influence other women at workplace to create a lasting and meaningful change. I conclude today's episode 2 of the Inspiring Ideas, Inspiring Women series, with this expression by Oprah Winfrey that says, the most important journey of our lives does not necessarily involve climbing the highest peak or trekking around the world. The biggest adventure you can ever take is to live the life of your dreams. Thank you once again, Rita.
Thank you. Amazing again. You guys just put so much work into this, and I think you distill such amazing content. So thank you again for allowing me to be part of Inspiring Ideas.
It's fantastic. Thanks, Rita.
Ciao.
Thank you, Abhi. Thank you, Rita. All the best. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.